All right. So today we're going to be looking at what is a guaranteed viable curriculum. Uh, what is it? How are we going to implement it? And of course, how are we going to measure it? So we're going to be talking about a lot here. So first of all, what is a guaranteed and viable curriculum? And how do we guarantee it? Well, they are mainly based off of our three big ideas and our four questions. The first idea being that every student learns at a high level, and with a focus on learning. Number two, working in collaborative teams, um, and in order to get to that higher level learning. And number three is uh, looking at data to support it. Uh, and of course, the four questions. Number one, what do we want our kids to learn? Number two, how do you know that they've learned it? Number three, what do you do if they have not learned it? And number four is, what do you do if they have learned it? So those questions and big ideas are going to drive our curriculum throughout this district. um, So, who creates the curriculum? And that's a really good question. And looking at that, it will be structured at the district level. So, there's going to be certain things that are loose and certain things that are tight. Uh, the structure is going to be tight. So, how do we have our kids looking at what the learning process will be tight. And there will be absolutely some things that are loose as well. So structured at the district level. So which standards are going to be followed is going to be at the district level, and of course voted on by the school board. And so looking at which standards are going to be followed as far as content and skills. Um, Buildings and grade level PLC teams will then come up with which standards are essential, and this is going to be the loose part. And of course, the standards they'll have to follow is by the district. And so, which standards are absolutely essential um, is going to be come up with by the buildings. Like we have elementary schools, will get together. So no matter if they're in fourth grade doesn't matter which elementary school they're at, they're going to get the same content and same skills. And of course, grade level PLC teams at the middle school, if depending on which wing they're going to be in, it shouldn't matter which wing they're in, they'll get the same education. That is the guaranteed and viable part. And of course, it is very important, according to Marzano, to come up with a shared language. So a shared language, like instructional objectives, learning targets, and learning goals, are going to be very important for teams to come up with. And of course, the learning units themselves are going to be based off of higher level thought. So looking at building learning units off of the standards and looking at higher level thinking, analyzing and summarizing and those kind of skills. All right. How will we measure the curriculum as a district? So it's important to have learning rubrics based on a 4 or maybe 5 point scale, so then students know what is exactly expected of them. Um, and so it's been shown that if students know what's expected of them, I mean, they can do better. I mean, it sounds obviously pretty self-explanatory with that. I mean, of course, kids are going to do better if they know what's exactly expected of them. And of course, learning is a progression, and obviously, all kids don't learn at the same level. And if we need to guarantee that all kids learn at high levels, then we need to go through the progression of learning. And looking at the growth mindset and having the kids know that it's okay to fail sometimes, to fail and not know something. Use that as a learning opportunity to push yourself. And I always use this example that I heard at a PLC conference on assessment, and Cassandra Erkins mentioned that it's better, it's just better policy for the kids that if you look at a progression of learning, saying, you know what, you got a 2 out of, instead of saying you got a 2 out of 4 or a 2 out of 5, you fail, here's an F, you need a grade book, and now we're moving on. Um, and that's a formative assessment. My gosh, that kid's gonna be, well, I don't know this stuff, and summative coming up, whatever. Like, I don't know this stuff, and just move on. Whereas opposed, if you see that they got 2 out of 4 or 2 out of 5, you can say, you know what, you mastered 2 out of the 4 learning targets, or you mastered 2 out of the 4 learning objectives, or you know what, let's see what we can do to get you to a 4. Um, and even if that kid just gets to a 3, that's better than what they'd be at the 2, and they have a better attitude going into the summative assessment. Um, so learning rubrics, and it's a progression of learning. It's very important for the kids to know that. Um, the kids need to know where they're at in learning progress, in the learning process, I should say. Um, and so we will be looking at, as far as measuring, looking at learning rubrics, and of course we still have summative assessments to see where they're at. Of course, when when the students get to the summative assessment, uh, as teachers, we should know where they are at in the learning process. So going through the formative assessment, that is how we are going to do our RTI, response to intervention, is through the formative assessment process. So formative, depending on how they do in the formatives, that will drive our instruction, and to see what is the common mistake here, what do kids need to do in order to get to a passing grade. What do they need to know? What piece of information, what learning target do they need to work towards in order to get that? And so we'll look at our tier 1 and tier 2 in the classroom. And by the time we get to the summative assessment, it'll be, hopefully we'll get our RTI tier 3 down to a point where it's just a few students is what it should be. And so we're looking at doing those strategies in the classroom, and looking at RTI through the formative assessments. Once the kids get to the summative, you should know exactly where they're at in the learning process. Once again, it's a progression of learning, and that is mainly how we will look at the guaranteed and viable curriculum in our district.